friends, welcome back to the kitchen. I'm Cheryl. We are in for another week of delicious recipes. The next 2 days we are supposed to have 80-degree weather here. We're getting into spring. I'm getting into all the things that I want to right now, and so I am in the mood for a salad tonight. So is Hubby. So he is off doing some work right now, and as soon as he comes back we're gonna have a delicious salad. One of our favorite sandwiches is an Italian grinder. If you guys have never heard of that, it's a delicious sandwich that has got like a coleslaw type dressing over your lettuce and your tomatoes and your pepperoncinis, and then you put it with provolone cheese, any kind of deli meat that you want. Tonight I'm using turkey and salami is what I'm using for ours. You can use ham, you can use turkey, you can use salami, pepperoni, any kind of those hard meat, deli type meats. So that's what I'm using tonight. But I decided, because a grinder is usually a sandwich and we're doing a salad, I have some of that leftover fresh milled bread that we made a couple of days ago, and I don't want this to go bad on me. So I'm gonna cut up part of this and I'm gonna make some homemade croutons. And we're gonna have some homemade croutons on top of our salad tonight. I think that's gonna be delicious. I mentioned it to hubby and he said, yes, please. So we're gonna make some homemade croutons with this bread. That is another little trick, friends. If you make homemade bread and you have a little bit left over and you don't have enough maybe for a sandwich, or you don't have, you don't want to use it for sandwiches or whatever, make some fresh croutons and put them on a salad. It's delicious. My oven's hot. I've got it 400 degrees. I'm excited for salads coming up with our fresh milled bread. Be able to make some delicious croutons for spring and summer on all of those delicious salads that we do. We eat a lot of salads in the spring and summer because it's warmer here, and so we'd like to eat a little bit lighter. We like to eat a little bit cooler and a little bit later in the evening, and I don't want something really super heavy, so we eat a lot of salads. So let's get our croutons ready for the oven, and it's not gonna take long to get this salad done. So I'm gonna cut my bread into thirds lengthwise. I don't want my croutons to be super big. I don't want big ginormous croutons. These are not restaurant size croutons. I just want them a nice manageable eating size is what I want. So we're gonna cut this one probably into fourths, so we end up with some just nice beautiful cubes, and then it's gonna go on our cookie sheet, and we'll put this in a 400 degree oven. Put them in there for about 15 minutes until they are nice and crispy and brown. And this is gonna be delicious. I'm excited for this salad tonight. I started making these grinders, oh gosh, probably a year ago or so. It's become my pastor's favorite thing that I make. And so when we have potluck type things at church, I always make these grinder sliders for him. And he is always a super happy man when he gets those. So this is a healthier way of having that grinder sandwich, doing it without a ton of bread. This is gonna make quite a few croutons. We're not gonna need all of these croutons tonight, but we are gonna use part of them, and the rest of them I will store them in a Ziploc bag. I'll actually throw them in the freezer, and then I can put them back in the oven and re-crisp them up when I'm ready for another salad. I'm gonna season these up really simply. I don't want anything that's going to compete with my salad dressing that's going on our grinder salads. So we're just going to put just a little bit of, oh, that was cut. I just didn't get it split. So I'm going to put just a little bit of olive oil on these. Olive oil is what's going to help them get all nice and crispy. We're going to put a little bit of our Redmond's real salt on these. My container is still really full. They really pack this thing tight. So I'm gonna have to dump this in my salt container. A little bit of salt on these. I don't want to go too heavy with the salt. And then I have a little bit of garlic powder. We're still using our roasted garlic powder. Roasted garlic powder we got from my sweet friend Nicole over at Lazy Creek Homestead. So we're gonna put a little of that on here. Perfect. A little bit of parsley. Like I said, we're not going super crazy with the seasonings because our salad dressing is gonna be delicious and I don't wanna compete with that. So we're just gonna toss these in that olive oil, our salt, garlic powder, just kind of get them spread out so they're not, I mean, they can be touching a little bit, but you want them to have plenty of room to get nice and crispy. All right, going in the oven 400 degrees for about 15 minutes. While our croutons are in the oven toasting up, let's get our salad dressing made because I want this to have about 10 or 15 minutes to really sit, let all those flavors come together before we try to make our salads. Hubby should be home in about a half an hour. It'd be perfect timing. So I'm gonna make my salad dressing in a little mason jar. I just think it's easier to really get a good shake on it. So we're gonna do 3/4 cup of mayonnaise. I'm gonna eyeball this. I've made this dressing plenty of times, so I don't need to measure. But I will leave a link in the description box for you guys with all of the measurements for this salad dressing. So 3/4 cup, that's about right. All right, we need some oregano. And I'm gonna do something to the salad dressing that it doesn't call for because I like the flavor. I'm gonna put it, because we're using pepperoncinis on our salad, I'm gonna put a little bit of the pepperoni juice in here because I love what it does to it. We're gonna add some red wine vinegar. A couple of splashes. We're gonna add some salt. We need some fresh garlic. And I'm buying my garlic in this bag like this. They're already pre-peeled and ready to go for me. So I'm just gonna cut one side. I just need to get one clove out. That's all I need. Put the rest of this back in the fridge. Gonna squeeze our garlic clove in here. Use my little scraper, just like that. Now we need some Parmesan cheese. I'm gonna use this rosemary and olive oil that I have. But you can use whatever Parmesan cheese you want. So I'm just gonna grate this right in here. And you don't really want this salad dressing super thin. You don't want it runny like a coleslaw dressing. You want this to still have a little bit of creaminess, a little bit of body to it. And I'm actually gonna put some Parmesan cheese on top of our salads too. So I'm gonna put my lid on here. I'm gonna give this a good shake. And then we're gonna taste it for seasonings, see if we need to add anything to it. Just gonna sit here for about 10 or 15 minutes while our croutons are finishing up. Let's get a spoon. I'm gonna give this a quick little taste. That looks amazing. I want a little more pepperoni juice in it. Now, if you don't want pepperoni juice, by all means don't use it. You make it however you want it. But I love that pepperoni in there. But I think that right there is gonna be perfect. We're gonna let that just sit there and hang out until our croutons are ready, and then we'll start assembling our salads. Since hubby just got home, we're gonna get our salads made. Our croutons just came out of the oven and they are nice and crunchy. Those are delicious. Let's get this lettuce chopped up. All right, friends, we got our green leaf lettuce and our iceberg lettuce all chopped up. I've got all of my condiments down here for our salads. Let's get these put together. This is the grinder salad, kind of like the grinder sandwich. Hubby loves red onion, so I'm putting red onion on his, not on mine. As you guys know, I'm not onion fan. So we're gonna put our red onion on here. We're gonna do a little bit of turkey. As I said, you can use whatever deli meat you would like to use. You can use ham, pepperoni, anything like that is totally fine. We're also gonna put some hard salami on here. These are all the classic flavors of a grinder sandwich. We've got a little bit of mozzarella cheese. We're gonna, or not mozzarella, but provolone. We're using some diced up provolone cheese on here. We've got some fresh tomato. And you can make this any way you want. If there's things you don't like, if you're not a fan of tomato, don't put any on it. You can customize this any way you want to. We're gonna put on some pepperoncinis. This is what gives it that classic grinder flavors, is those delicious pepperoncinis on here. Looks delicious, doesn't it? I'm gonna put a little bit of fresh mozzarella cheese on here. Or not mozzarella, why do I keep saying mozzarella? Parmesan cheese. And I'm gonna use the big grate on this because I want some big pieces on here. All right, last thing we're gonna do, or two things we have left to do. We're gonna put on our homemade croutons. This is our bread. Hubby came in and tasted these and said they are fantastic. He's super excited. Last thing we need to do to this is put our salad dressing on, and the salad is ready. Dressing on our salad. This looks amazing. I'll put the dressing on the table. Hubby may want to add a little bit extra to his salad. But this is a stunning looking salad. We're gonna go enjoy this and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Hi friends, it is Wednesday. Welcome back to the kitchen. We are gonna do another delicious recipe. Hubby has had grand jury duty all the last 2 weeks, as you guys know. I've told you, and it's just been a little bit of a crazy schedule. I am exhausted with all of the changes in the schedules and the whole, it's a mess. So we did not do dinner last night because we did a really late lunch yesterday. Neither one of us were hungry, so I didn't do dinner, but I am doing dinner tonight. So I'm gonna do dinner. He has to finish his work day. Then he's headed to our church to do some work there. So I'm gonna get started on dinner because I'm gonna bring it to him. Even though we're not doing life groups right now and I don't need to teach tonight, I'm still gonna bring him dinner because he's gonna have a late night at church. So I need to get him fed. So we went to the park today to have lunch while he was in between jury duty and work, and just spent some time together. And I was asking him what he wanted for dinner, and he told me to throw out some ideas. And so I went to Pinterest, pulled up my Pinterest board, and I said, these are some ideas that I've had on my list to make for a while. What sounds good? Well, he picked one, and we are doing chicken cordon bleu meatloaf. I love chicken cordon bleu. So does hubby. We have not had it for quite a while, but this meatloaf was a very unusual way to do a chicken cordon bleu. So we're gonna make it. I'm gonna make some simple mashed potatoes. You guys have seen me make them 1,000 times. Mashed potatoes and meatloaf are very classic combinations together. And then I've got some fresh carrots in my fridge. I'm gonna just do some hot honey carrots with this hot honey that we have, and it's gonna be a really easy dinner, super quick. But I wanna get this meatloaf in the oven because it needs to bake for about 45 minutes. So let's get it in there and get all of this stuff in here to get it mixed up. I'm gonna wing it. I'll leave the recipe in the description box for you guys. We are not fans of Swiss cheese. So I've got a little bit of mozzarella, and that's what I'm gonna use. This is some mozzarella instead. Totally fine. Use whatever kind of cheese you want. I just don't prefer, I don't like Swiss. It's not my favorite. So let's get this meatloaf mixed up. I'm gonna use my pull-and loaf pan. Normally when I make meatloaf, I do it freeform on a sheet pan, but this is with a chicken, and chicken is a lot looser, a lot softer. And I really think that it needs the structure of the pan itself. So we're gonna use our Pullman pan. So it's not gonna be as thick of a meatloaf, which I'm okay with. It's still gonna take probably a good 40 minutes in the oven. So let's get it mixed up. So the recipe calls for 2 pounds of chicken, and I'm gonna do a pound of ground chicken, which this has dark and light meat both in it. And then I got a pack of chicken breast, ground chicken breast. So I've got a mixture, which I think is going to be a great combination between the two pieces, or between the two types of ground chicken. I think it's going to be delicious. So I'm going to get all of my stuff in here, and then I'm going to mix it up. This is a really fun meatloaf because it gets layered. So you do a layer of meatloaf, and then you do your cheese and your ham, and then you do another layer of meatloaf. So I think this is going to be super fun. Like I said, I'm just going to wing it as far as our ingredients go, and it's going to be delicious. So I'm still using my Redmond's real salt. I have not got it put in my salt container yet, but I need to. So we're just going to put a good teaspoon or so of salt in here. I think that'll be good. That container is so full. We need to put some parsley in here. So I've just got some of my dried parsley. We're just going to put that in there for some beautiful color and some flavor. We need some garlic. I'm using my dehydrated garlic. Good pinch or pinch and a half of that. We need some onion. And it calls for minced onion, so I'm using the dehydrated minced onion. So a good couple of pinches of onion in here. It also calls for some garlic powder. So we've got both garlic, dehydrated, and garlic powder as well. So we're gonna sprinkle some of this in here. We need some pepper. Just like that. We need 1 egg. And a 1/4 cup of breadcrumbs. It calls for breadcrumbs. I'm going to use panko because that's what I like to use, is some panko. Take my rings off, and I'm going to get in here by hand because to me that is the best way to mix this up and not end up with a really tough meatloaf. I want to just use my fingers, just really lightly toss this mixture together. Get all of those breadcrumbs mixed in there, all of that seasoning. I'm excited for this. I love a good meatloaf. I have never heard of chicken cordon bleu meatloaf before, so I think this is going to be absolutely delicious. Hubby seemed pretty excited about it. We are having a rough time with this jury duty. It has just been all over the place. One day he has to be there at 8:30. One day he doesn't go in till 1:30. Sometimes he goes in at 9:30 and then he's done at 1:50, but they give him a lunch break at noon. It's just been nuts. I just wish they would have things a little bit more organized, but they don't. So we're just gonna tough it out until his jury duty is over April 10th. All right, so before I wash my hands, I'm gonna put half of this in my pan. And then I'm gonna go wash my hands real quick so that I can do my cheese and my ham. So as I said, I'm using my Pullman pan, so this is gonna be a lot more thin than a traditional meatloaf. And I actually like the thinner meatloaves. I like the thinner breads, the thinner meatloaves, the thinner everything. That's why I love my Pullman pan. They don't take quite as long to bake, so a traditional meatloaf would take a good hour or more. I'm gonna wash my hands real quick. All right, so I got some ham at the grocery store and I asked them to slice it thin. I don't know what it is anymore with the grocery store. When I ask them to slice ham really thin for me, they don't usually do it really thin. This is okay, but it wasn't exactly what I wanted, but that's all right. We're gonna make it work. So we're just gonna lay a layer of ham in between these two layers of our ground chicken. And you want to leave a little bit of room on the side of it because we need to be able to push this meatloaf together and have it not, we want it to stick together so that we seal all of our ham and our cheese inside this meatloaf. So I'm trying to be really careful to make sure I keep this ham right in the center of this meatloaf. Do one more little piece right here, just like that. All right, so I've got my cheese, and I'm just gonna cut this into some squares, and then I'm just gonna lay it on top of that ham. And then I'm gonna put my last layer of ground chicken on there. This is gonna go in the oven. This has a delicious Dijon gravy that goes on top of this meatloaf, and I think that's gonna make it extra special, something completely different that I think is gonna be incredible with our mashed potatoes. This piece is a little bit thick, but let's see if we can cut it. All right, so let's get our cheese put in here. As I said, let's try to keep it away from the edge so that we can seal this. Got a couple extra little pieces. We're just gonna put those in there, just like that. All right, now we're gonna take the rest of our ground chicken and we're gonna drop this by clumps on top, just so we make sure we get this all the way across and we have enough. We're gonna start packing this down on the sides. Try to get that ham and that cheese sealed down inside that meatloaf so that as it bakes, that ground chicken is gonna bake up and it's gonna seal together. And hopefully, if all goes well, it's gonna keep our ham and cheese inside our meatloaf. All right, just like that. That looks incredible. All right, that's gonna go in the oven, 350, 375 for about 40 minutes. All right, so we're gonna get started on our Dijon gravy. We've got 3 tablespoons of butter. We're gonna get that melted in our skillet. This gravy goes together really, really quick, which is exciting because I need to get down to church and bring hubby his dinner. I'm gonna go ahead and put my Dijon mustard in here. You want about a tablespoon of Dijon. My bottle is almost empty. I'm gonna mix that in with my butter. Let that Dijon get kind of warm and toasty with all that butter. That's gonna be delicious. Got my heat down on probably medium low heat. We just wanna get that butter melted. We're gonna add 3 tablespoons of flour in here. We're gonna get that mixed around. We're gonna make our roux. So we're gonna let this sit here for just a couple of minutes and get nice and toasty. We don't wanna put our milk in until that flour has had a chance to really cook out. Like I said, this gravy goes together super, super fast. Minimal ingredients. It's gonna be delicious on that meatloaf. I love the smell of that hot Dijon. I'm gonna put a little bit of nutmeg in here. It calls for fresh nutmeg, but I don't have any fresh nutmeg in my house right now. So I'm just gonna use a little bit of pre-grated. And you don't want a bunch. You're just going for just a tiny bit. It just kind of gives you that little warm sensation in the back of your throat that you put in white sauces. And we're gonna do 1 teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce. That's probably good. All right, let's get this mixed up together. I'm gonna go ahead and put my milk in first before my heavy cream. It calls for 1 cup of, it calls for low-fat milk. I'm gonna do whole milk because that's what I have. We're gonna get that whisked around here, get all those lumps out of that flour. think that looks pretty good. Okay, we're just gonna stir this. I wanted to get my milk put in first because my heavy cream, I'm afraid that's gonna separate if I put it in while the pan is super hot. So now we're gonna go and put in about a 1/4 cup of heavy cream, thereabouts. Just gonna eyeball it. This already smells incredible. That Dijon mustard has all of that delicious flavor. All right, we need to put a little bit of salt and pepper in here. While that gravy comes up. The last thing that goes in here is some Parmesan cheese. And I'm gonna put that in just when it's finished because I don't wanna make that cheese grainy. I went ahead and put my cream cheese and my butter in my mashed potatoes. Have not mashed them yet, but I wanted to let that cream cheese get nice and soft along with our butter and our potatoes. This looks delicious. It smells incredible. I think hubby is gonna really enjoy this meatloaf tonight. Starting to get a little bit thick, which is what we want. It's a gravy after all. I'm gonna put just a touch more milk in here. Let's give this gravy a little taste. That is delicious. Wow. You don't get a whole lot of Dijon flavor, but it's definitely there. It's kind of just in the back of your throat. You get that little bit of Dijon, which is delicious. All right, I'm gonna let this sit here and then we're gonna pull that meatloaf out of the oven in just a couple minutes. All right, let's go ahead and put our Parmesan cheese in here before we dish this up. Just gonna use my microplane, grate a little bit of Parmesan in here. Fresh grated is best, but if you have pre-grated, by all means use that. I seem to always have some Parmesan cheese in my fridge. You want a good tablespoon or 2 of Parmesan. All right, let's give that a whisk and then a taste. And then we're gonna get this dished up. I just put my carrots in the oven about 10 minutes ago. They're just about done. I'm gonna mash our potatoes real fast and dinner is gonna be ready. You know, now that I think about it, I think this needs a little bit of color. Let's put a little bit of chives in our Dijon gravy. I think it needs a little bit of green. The meatloaf is brown, the potatoes are white, the gravy is white. I think we need a little bit of color in here. That looks better, smells amazing. All right, friends, let's get this dished up. Here is our chicken Cordon Bleu meatloaf. See if I can get this turned around so you can see it. There it is. It's gonna be delicious. I got my mashed potatoes done, our gravy's done, our carrots have got about 2 minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and start packing up his dinner. By the time I get everything in there, carrot should be ready. So I'm just gonna use my knife. We're gonna cut him a nice piece. See if we can get this loose. I'm gonna grab my spatula. I don't want to lose anything out of here. Thought I had it cut, maybe not. Okay, there we go. All right, yep, it was the ham that was holding things up. All right, there's what the inside of our chicken Cordon Bleu meatloaf looks like. I'm gonna put that down there. That smells incredible. Right, there's our mashed potatoes and our meatloaf. Carrot should be done in just a second. I'm gonna put a little of this hot honey on our carrots. Just like that. I'm gonna get these put in his container, a little bit of gravy. and we are gonna be out the door, friends. Hubby is going to love this dinner. All right, there it is. Let's get some gravy. Just gonna put a spoonful of this gravy right over the top of his meatloaf, a little bit on his potatoes. I think we'll add just a little bit of chives on everything for some color, a little bit of dried parsley for some color. All right, friends, there it is, and we're out the door. All right, friends, I did not get to do any more recipes last week after we did those two. Hubby's jury duty schedule has just really messed with my schedule, with me trying to prep things and get things cooked. I have been running back and forth between our house and the courthouse picking him up. And so if any of you guys don't know, my husband suffers from PTSD pretty severely. And just trying to park downtown where the courthouse is, dealing with all the parking and the things and all, it's just too much. It's too much for him. So it's easier if I just pick him up at work, take him, drop him off at the courthouse, and let him do what he needs to do there for jury duty. And then I pick him up and take him either back to work or take him back to get his car and he comes home, one or the other, whatever time of day it is. But his schedule has been crazy, like super, super crazy. I'll take him up and drop him off one morning at like 10 o'clock. He'll text me an hour later, I'm ready for lunch. So then I grab his lunch, run it to him down at the courthouse. We eat lunch together. I take him and drop him back off. I come home, usually within an hour, hour and a half or so, he'll text me and say, we're done for the day. I go pick him up, or sometimes he's there until 5. We just never know, one day to the next. And so the next 2 weeks, the rest of this week and next week are jury duty. And so my meal plan and stuff is kind of off kilter for the next couple of weeks. So I'm gonna do the best I can. But at least we got 2 recipes done this last week. Both of those were absolutely delicious. Husband absolutely loved them. He said he would definitely eat those again. He's excited to have that grinder salad this summer, especially when the weather's really warm and it's hot outside. We don't like to eat really warm food. We like to have nice cold salads, that kind of stuff that are nice and hearty. That has a lot of protein in it. I have a lot of options that I can put in that salad. They're gonna be super delicious. So friends, I wanted to thank you guys again so much for joining me for the recipes we did get done last week. And I promise we will get back to our regularly scheduled videos as soon as jury duty is over and we are back to some kind of a normal, a normal day. I'm tired, I'm exhausted. So anyway, it is Monday. We are headed out. Tonight we're gonna go watch The Chosen with our church family tonight. So I'm super excited about that. I just went and stocked up on a few snacks and we're gonna head off to the theater here shortly and go watch that. The first part of that, part 2 is next week. We're gonna watch part 1 tonight and I'm excited about just to go relax and spend time with my church family. So friends, I'll leave recipes and the links for you guys for both of the ones that we got done this week. And if you guys have any questions, leave them for me in the comments. Any ideas, leave me in the comments. I love getting to read your comments. They just mean so much to me. And I love that we've got to build this community together. I love that I get to talk with you guys through the comments. I love reading your comments. So please, please leave me comments below. Let me know what you guys are up to. Let me know what you're cooking, what you're making, all the things I want to know. And friends, have a great day and we'll talk to you guys in the comments. God bless.